Everybody to the, I guess, gonna wait for the recording to start. Okay, good morning and welcome everybody to the June 2023 City Planning Commission meeting. Today we get to go out and vote, so don't forget to do that here before the time runs out on the day. And with that, we see that we're a little short on commissioners because a few of them are working the poll sites. So, but we do have a quorum of 4. And our first agenda item, C1, we're probably going to hold that for a little bit because I need to recuse, and we're seeing if we can see if another commissioner can join us for a little bit to work that case. Anyways, we appreciate everybody being here today, and the commissioners look forward to hearing your case. We understand every project is important and unique, and we want to make sure we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention that they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is hybrid, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations, 20 minutes for the applicant, plus any questions by the commissioners. And then once we move to public comment, I will call on those who are in the chambers first, followed by those who are joining us online. We do have a timer to keep our meeting on track and expect public comments to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or a larger group. But please, in all instances, limit repetitive comments to a minimum. As we get started with our meeting, I ask staff to provide some ground rules and instructions to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. So Joe, can you remind us of those ground rules, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have people attending today that are joining us on Zoom, and then those in attendance here in the chamber. For those participating on Zoom, so that you're aware, there are 2 categories of Zoom participants. One is staff and or commissioners who are listed as panelists in Zoom. And then the second is for the rest of you that are participating. In order for you to speak or be seen, we'll have to promote you to a panelist position. So whenever your case is called, if you're a member of the applicant team, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll promote you over to a panelist position. And then once the planner starts to present, if you're a member of the public who wishes to speak, please raise your hand at that time and we'll promote you over. Whenever we promote you, you have to accept that. And then once you accept it, you'll move over into the panelist position. And once you're there, please remain muted until you're called on to speak. We will, when we do public testimony, start with folks that are in the chamber that are present here that wish to speak, and then move on to those of you that are in Zoom. Finally, the Zoom participant chat feature is just for questions about the placement on the agenda, and technology related questions is not to be used to provide any testimony on the merits of a case. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So as stated before, we're going to hold docket item C1, but let's go ahead with the continuance of docket item C2, please.
Docket item C2 is case number CPC 2022-00138, a request to approve a soccer stadium for the Kansas City Current located at the Berkeley Riverfront Development at Berkeley Parkway and Lydia Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance without fee to July 18th, and you do have a quorum on this. Allender, Baker, Crowell, Enders, Hill, Rojas, and Sadowski.
It's Baker Crowell. Okay, so we are here for the continuance, and so with that, is there anybody out there that would like to speak regarding the continuance of docket item C2? If so, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
There's no one on Zoom or in attendance that wishes to speak, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Any questions from the commissioners on the continuance of this docket item? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
I move to continue docket item C2 to July 18th without fee.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to continue docket item C2 to July 18th. Can we please take roll call on that motion? Who's doing that for us today, Joe?
I am.
Oh, you're okay.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Thank you, Lisa. So the motion passes 4-0. All right, with that, let's move to our regular agenda items, beginning with those cases that are looking to continue to a future date, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first continuance, which deviates from the agenda that was published, is docket item 1, which is case number SUP 2023-00013. A request to approve a special use permit to complete fill work for a demolition debris landfill in District R80 on about 7 acres at 11202 and 11206 East Missouri Highway 150. July 18th. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th and staff recommends without fee. Next continuance is docket item 5, case number SUP 2023-00025. A request to approve an amendment to a special use permit to allow for a greenhouse to be constructed in District R80 on about 10 acres at 9301 East 147th Street. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. Next case is docket item 9, case number SUP 2022-00045. Request to approve a special use permit to allow for a gas station at 8025 Hickman Mills Drive. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. Docket item 10, case number CPC 2023-00060. A request to approve a tax incentive plan for the Martini Flats project at 31st and Linwood. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. Docket item number 11, case number CPC 2023-00083. Request to approve a rezoning for the same project at the same location. The applicant is requesting continuance July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. Docket item number 12, case number CPC 2023-00053. A request to approve an amendment to the major street plan by adding Northeast 100th Street east of Maplewoods Parkway and removing Northeast 96th Street east of Maplewoods Parkway from the major street plan. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. Docket item 14, case number SUP 2023-00024. A request to approve a special use permit for a hotel in District M15, generally located at 4112 Pennsylvania Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance July 18th. Staff recommends no fee. And that concludes the continuance requests.
Okay, this docket item 2 going to be heard today.
Yes.
We missed 13 or is that?
Yeah, I think you missed.
Oh, I didn't call 13. Sorry. Docket item 13, case SUP 2023-00024. A request to approve a special use permit for a warehouse and accessory structures, including variances to the Boulevard and Parkway standards at Belmont Boulevard and St. John Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance to July 18th. Staff recommends no fee.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items 1, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, or 14? Okay. At this time, we'll open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding continuance of docket items 1, 5, and 9 through 14, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
I move to continue docket item 1 to July 18th without fee, and I move to continue docket items 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 as stated on the docket.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for continuance of all those docket items. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0 then. All right, let's go back to docket item number 2, please.
Docket item 2 is 2 companion cases, starting with 2.1, case number CPC 2023-00070. Request to approve an amendment to the SWOPE area plan to change the recommended land use from residential low density to residential medium high density to accommodate a proposed development at 5015 Garfield Avenue. And docket item 2.2, case number CPC 2023-00069. Request to approve a rezoning from District R6 to District UR and an associated development plan to allow for a 45-unit apartment complex at the same location. Anna Naniski is the staff planner.
Okay, as previously mentioned, we're here to discuss CD CPC 2023-00059. The site in question is 5015 Garfield. The property is currently zoned R6 and the applicant is proposing to rezone it to UR, which is urban redevelopment. There's an associated area plan amendment and development plan with this project to site some affordable housing units on the subject site. The project is located in the Midtown / Swope area of Kansas City, Missouri. There's a close-up of the site in question. It is highlighted in yellow. It's also near the UMKC Rockhurst campuses on the east side of Troost. This is an image from Google Street View of the site. The site is currently vacant. This is a site plan provided by the applicant. So I've rotated the map. So north is facing the left portion of the screen, my left, so it can fully fit on the slide, but we can see that the apartment buildings, they are bundled in 5 to 6 units per building, and they have a parking lot internal to the site. So the front facades of the structures face Garfield and Brooklyn Avenue. This is an elevation of the proposed units. Now I'm going over the approval criteria associated with a development plan. I won't get into all of these items. I'm just going to focus on A, F, and H. Review criteria A talks about the plan complying with zoning and development code and other applicable like policies, plans, and ordinances. So this is a rezoning to UR from R6 with an associated area plan amendment from low density residential to medium high residential. And there are several lot and building deviations associated with the plan. So with all of these things combined, city staff does believe that it is compatible with this review criteria. Then we have item F, which is about the location, orientation, aesthetics, design of the buildings and the structures. And the building orientation, as I mentioned, has the main entrances facing the street, Garfield and Brooklyn, as well as porches that face this facade. But, this is just good for a pedestrian and a general user, as well as the architectural features with those gabled roofs matches other structures in the area. So city staff also believes that this review criteria is compatible. And to conclude with review criteria H talks about streets, drives, pavement areas, making sure that there's a limited amount of asphalt and impervious surface on site. And the project is overparked for an affordable housing unit project. However, diversity in the housing stock is very important all across the city. So if this item is critical to the developers, making sure that this project is successful, then we are in support of the amount of parking that is being provided on site. With that being said, city staff, we recommend approval for the area plan amendment and approval subject to conditions for the rezoning to UR and development plan, with the caveat that conditions 9, 10, and 11 listed in the staff report do need to be addressed and completely fixed prior to the ordinance request for city council review. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the deviations on this project, please?
Yeah. So they are some lot and building standard deviations for like the front yard and the porches encroaching into that front yard. The underlining zoning for this project is R 2.5, which goes with the area plan amendment. So we just need a few deviations like that to bring the proposal into compliance with that underlining zoning.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners on this one? Okay, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then. Is the applicant available? Come on up and you can feel free to sit up here with,
I also promoted Jay Rodell Tipton.
good morning.
Good morning. Brian Drew, Folsom Housing. Appreciate the time. Just wanted to add that a third of the units being proposed in our plan are market rate units to help support low income folks and also market folks in the area.
Okay. You mind stating your full name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Brian Drew with Folsom Housing Group, 220 Northwest Executive Way in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 1, please come forward, or sorry, docket item number 2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. Come on up.
Good morning.
Good
I'm Bill
morning.
Carey with Blue Hills Neighborhood Association. And just briefly, under the heading that 2 or more things can be true at the same time, the need to develop an empty site and the potential use to the community at large, we address the redevelopment of the old Willard School site at 50th and Garfield Avenue. While it's important to have this site put to use after so many years of the school's decay and deterioration, it's still was at that time of use to the community, and that tons of Kansas City snow from the plaza and other locations were dumped there every winter, as well as being a place for other storage. As a constituent collective in the Blue Hills area, we posed over 30-some questions to the developers at a meeting that we hosted and facilitated for them last week in the community. And as of 9 a.m. today, there's been no response to these questions. As a working neighborhood association in the urban core, it's one of our founding tenets to promote and ensure the health and safety of residents. I won't go into all of the 30+ questions addressed. However, we present 2 that directly deal with health and safety. First, what is the physical structure and or equipment that will be used for so-called tenants to dispose of their waste in a safe and healthy way that will prevent rodent or other pest issues in the neighborhood? And secondly, since the structures on this site will have no basement foundation, what area or location or plan will be provided to the presumed tenants in the many cases of inclement weather, especially the multiple yearly tornado watches and warnings? How will the intended new Blue Hills residents' safety be ensured? While Folsom has built many developments of this type and has a track record for property management for the past 10 or 15 years, after that 10 to 15 year mark, the property management record causes great concern to the community. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, Joe?
There's no one online who wishes to speak. So that's it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. There's a couple of questions that were brought up during that. Do you mind answering those, please?
Yes. So with regard to the basements and the public safety there, we do intend with our concrete structures to have an area where the residents on the lower level will have a safe space for any weather that may come up. Secondarily, as far as trash removal and things of that nature while doing construction, we will have dumpsters on site where our construction crews will throw their waste away. It won't just linger throughout the neighborhood.
Okay. It appears that we have one more person that would like to speak for public testimony, so please come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good morning. My name is Marva Harper. I'm a little confused because on your screen, it says 00059, and the hearing that I was to speak to was for 0069. Are these the same or what?
That's a typo on my part. For my PowerPoint presentation, it says 59, but it should have said 69.
So
And I'm
this is the
sorry,
right-
I can't hear. what
This
you
is
said.
the right case, ma'am.
It is
this is the case.
0069, or
Yes.
they're the same? Is that what you're saying?
This is 00069.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, then the gentleman did speak to part of the concerns that I had concerning this development of rezoning it from a single family dwellings to multiple to apartments. And my question to them is the consideration of whether or not, how would this improve the community, changing it and rezoning it from a single family dwellings to apartment type of dwellings, which will increase traffic, which will increase, it's already looked at as a high crime area. And so the question, will that increase that? And how do they propose to bring the standards of living up for that community, putting in this type of dwellings?
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public testimony then again. So we already talked about the physical structure, for trash, you're going to have trash closure out there that has receptacles for everybody to use. And then inclement weather, you said, just so I can understand. So the lower levels of the units have storm shelters?
Not storm shelters, but they'll have a room with no windows that residents can enter, and the exteriors will be made with concrete to allow for safety during a tornado.
So that's the folks on the upper levels, they're supposed to go down there?
They're townhome units, so
Okay.
they can come down to the lower level. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then we just had the new comment with the improvement. How does this, by having multifamily, how does this improve the?
I think that with the addition of the 45 units, our history has shown that, commerce will chase the housing. And so having some additional shopping, both grocery and housing, house type shopping will be made available to the residents. As far as security, I understand the concern there. We do have a security budget within our project that, we intend to, put cameras and have security on site to curb any nefarious behavior.
Are these units for rent or are they for sale?
They are for rent.
Just to be clear, some of the units, it looks like would like some of the second floor units wouldn't have access to the first floor. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I'll be working with the architect team on how we can get them down safely in the event of a weather event.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay. At this time, we're going to close all testimony and speak amongst the commission.
Already closed.
We've already opened up public testimony twice, and that's when we like to. I'm sorry. I've had public testimony open twice. I mean, you got. Come on up if you like, have something to say. please. Yes, sir.
My main question was the impact on the traffic in the area. You have 64 parking spaces designed for this 45 units with 2 to 3 bedrooms. They say that's allowing for about a car and a half on for each apartment. Garfield is a regular street. 50th Street is a regular street. You only have stop signs. I see with that many dwellings going in, and they're not single-family dwellings, the parking is going to be tremendous. I attend the church right on that corner. We even have problems parking there ourselves sometimes. That's why we built a lot to put parking, and we put a parking lot in. Well, now you're going to dump so many more cars over there. They've got no place to park but on the street. And that entails, causes a problem for the whole neighborhood.
Okay.
And as far as the Chasing Commerce, we've been over there 30 years and we've tried to get more stores to come in, more things to come in that area. Nobody's even considered that. That's all, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
do
you.
mind stating your name and address for the record, sir?
My name, David Brown. My address that I'm concerned is 2015 East 50th Street, just Southside First Baptist Church.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Anybody else like to speak? Okay. All right, so at this time, so traffic impact, was there a traffic study needed for this?
Yeah.
And
The appropriate reviewer was sent the plans and they determined that a traffic impact study was not necessary.
because the number of cars or people using vehicles would be minimal?
The number of units, I think, is the trigger for the need for the traffic impact study. And at 45, that reviewer did not believe it needed.
Can understand.
The appropriate reviewer from Public Works was sent these plans and they determined that this project did not need a traffic impact study.
All right, thank you. With that, if there's anything to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll just say, I think the 5 to 6 units is appropriate for the area. It's not a huge block apartment building. I think the parking will be more than sufficient. I think we'll find. And the traffic, I think what we've learned over time is that with apartment buildings, most people are coming in and out once or twice a day. It's not a dramatic increase in kind of traffic all at once. And then I think that I grew up in Texas, so basements aren't really a thing down there, and we have tornadoes as well. So there are ways to stay safe. So I'll be in support of the project.
Anybody else like to speak?
I'll
take
go
a-
ahead and
Take a
make a
motion, please.
motion. I move to approve docket item 2.1 without conditions and 2.2 with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item 2.1 without conditions and 2.2 with conditions. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
oh, I'm sorry, Corral
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0. We appreciate you coming in and talking about your concerns and understand that that they are, but in some cases, we believe this case meets the criteria and fits the area. So that's why that was approved. Okay, with that, I want to go back now. We've got Commissioner Hill available. Commissioner Hill, do you have the docket with you so you can run docket item C1? I need to recuse myself.
I do. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. All right, can you run with docket item C1, please?
Absolutely. Joe, are you calling the docket?
Yep.
Okay.
C1 is case number final plat 2022-00047, Request to approve a final plat in District MPD on about 50 acres at the southwest corner of North Brighton Avenue and Northeast 59th Terrace to allow for the creation of 289 units on 4 lots and 2 tracks. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Are we doing a staff presentation on C1?
No, Madam Chair, since this is a consent item, we aren't.
Okay. All right, well, are there any questions from the commissioners on docket item C1?
No.
No.
All right,
And I see Commissioner Beasley is present also.
all right, welcome Commissioner Beasley. All right, well, if there are no questions, is there any comments that the, some feedback? I'm not sure who that is, but could you please mute? Let me see, can I mute them? Okay, thank you, whoever muted. All right, so does the applicant want to give any comments? If not, I will move on to public testimony.
Madam Chair, it does not appear the applicant wishes to speak.
All right, well, at this point, we will open it up for public testimony. If there's anyone in the chamber or online that wants to give testimony for docket item C1. If you are, please come to the podium, state your name and address. I can't really see, it doesn't look like anyone is up there.
Madam Chair, no one in the chamber wishes to speak, and there's also no one on Zoom who's raised their hand.
Well, all right, this is super easy. I thought it was pulled so we can discuss it. Fantastic. Well, seeing none, we'll go back to, we'll close public testimony. We'll turn back to the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments? If not, I will take a motion to approve.
Chair Hill, I move to approve docket item C1.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. Lisa, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Beasley, okay. Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
All right, it's been unanimously approved. Good luck with the project. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for stepping in, Commissioner Hill.
No problem. Thank you all.
All right. Ready to move on to docket item number 3, please.
Docket item 3 is case number ROW 2023-00013, a request to vacate North Armada Avenue in District AGR, generally located north of Northwest 83rd Street and south of Highway 152. Matthew Barnes is the staff planner.
Okay, good morning. As stated, we have docket item number 3, which is a vacation of right-of-way of North Armada Avenue, north of Northwest 83rd Street. It is located in the Northland. You can kind of see its location there south of the airport, way out there. Here's a closer view of the subject site at the bottom left corner of the screen, highlighted in yellow. To the north is the airport. On the right side of the screen is the I-29 Highway 152 interchange area with like Zona Rosa and all that. And here's a closer look of North Armada Avenue, highlighted in green. The applicant is proposing to vacate this right away. They own both sides of the property. I think the next slide shows that, yes, they own both sides of the right of way, which is about 83%, I believe, what was calculated. There's only one other adjacent owner at the bottom left side of the right of way to be vacated, and they still retain access off of Northwest 83rd Street. Here's a view of North Armada looking from that intersection at Northwest 83rd. And there is public street lights in this right of way. And that is one thing that the applicant will have to, is working with Public Works to remove if this is to be approved. That's one of the conditions. As I stated, they're responsible for removing public street lights from the right of way. They have obtained over 75% of the adjacent property, as they own over 75% of the adjacent property consent. Unlikely that North Armada will be extended in the future due to its location adjacent to Highway 152. Northampton there already has an interchange. And that area is also in the North Brush Creek watershed, which is not served by sewer. And so the land there cannot be subdivided under 3 acres. So it's not likely that there'll be subdivisions on that area soon until it's served. With that, staff is recommending approval with conditions for docket item number 3, which is the vacation North Armada Avenue. I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? All right, is the applicant available?
Carlos Lepe. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, good morning. How are you?
You, how are you?
Good. Do you mind stating your name and address for the record?
Carlos Lepe, 8325 Northwest Armada Avenue.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about your project here?
The reason I like to vacate the street is just for safety and privacy. I just bought a property 2 years ago, and almost every 2-3 weeks I found cars parked up there. And then I got my family there. So that's the only reason, just for safety and privacy, and to take some money out of the city, you know, for maintenance and anything. So I will be responsible for everything.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature, and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, it does not appear anyone in the chamber wishes to speak, and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Lippe?
Nope.
All right. So we'll go ahead and close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve docket item 3 with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 3. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
And Rojas.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passes in 4-0. Thank you for bringing it forward, and good luck with your project there.
Thank you very much.
Let's go with docket item number 4, please.
All right, docket item 4 is case number ROW 2022-00040. Request to vacate the alley between Brooklyn Avenue and Park Avenue north of East Truman Road. Jared Clements is the staff planner, and I believe he's joining us virtually. Jared, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. can't hear you. I would suggest we maybe move on to the next case, and Jared, either try to fix that or come down to the chamber, please.
Okay, let's hold then docket item number 4, and we'll come back to that one and go to docket item number 6, please.
Docket item 6 is case CPC 2023-00071. Request to approve a development plan for a mixed-use building containing approximately 105 residential units, retail space and amenities on about half an acre at the northwest corner of East Third and Grand Boulevard. Larissa Chombie is our staff planner.
Good morning.
Good morning. As Joe mentioned, this is docket item number 6 for case number 71, a development plan request. This is the location of the site in relation to the rest of the city. If the site looks familiar, it's because you've seen it before. There's a new design team associated with it for this new development. The proposal is for a 7-story mixed-use development with 2,400 square feet of retail on the ground floor, 105 residential units, and a parking garage. The development is proposing 107 parking spaces. However, the uses in the downtown streetcar area are not required to provide parking. Here's an overview of the lot. As you can see here along Grand, they are proposing a small loading area for the garbage truck. They will pull into the loading area, grab the trash, and then pull out straight onto Grand. They are requesting an administrative adjustment for this, and staff has approved the administrative adjustment along with this development plan if you choose to approve it. On the other side of the building along Walnut, that is the primary garage entrance for all residential all residential uses. Here is a rendering of the proposal and the proposed uses and landscaping. The applicant, I'll go back. The applicant is providing the adequate number of landscaping and street trees along Grand and 3rd Street, and is requesting a deviation to the required number of street trees along Walnut. And due to the lack of natural light, the presence of the parking garage entrance, and the grading of the site, staff supports the deviation. Here is just a look at that ground floor level showing the retail, and the 2nd floor showing the residential units. The proposed building materials consist of brick, cast stone, metal panels, and glazing. And this proposal is in keeping with the character of the surrounding neighborhood and in compliance with the greater downtown area plan. And then here's just a rendering of what it'll look like from the corner of Grand and 3rd Street, East 3rd Street. And that's the end of my presentation, and I can answer any questions if you have them.
This is very similar to what was in before, right? Or no?
Yes. Last time the garage entrance was also located along Grand.
Same developer, different developer, or what's the? Just help
It's a
remind me.
different
Okay,
design team.
Yeah, different designer, same developer.
gotcha. Okay, I'm sure he'll fix that up for me here in a second. Okay, any other questions for city staff? All right, with that, let's welcome the applicant, please. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, commissioners. Good to see you again. Andrew Ganal, 21 East 57th Street, Kansas City, Missouri, representing Oaks Properties.
Jeff McMahon, 15210 Catalina in Leawood, Kansas.
So just to catch everybody up, this building is quite similar to the one we showed you last year. That was a bit of a unique circumstance for us in which we inherited a set of plans that had originally been developed before our involvement. And the more we looked at it, the more we looked at the environment of costs and so forth, realized that there were some key changes we wanted to make. There was a couple of things we had left out there with the city that we still had to work on. And when we moved over to a new design team, those were in the forefront of our mind. Actually, Joe, can you promote Ben Delwish or Malini Ubalan if the architects need any, have any questions to answer? One of the key changes we made was to relocate the residential entrance from kind of in the middle of Third Street all the way to the corner at Third and Walnut. It's just a more natural entrance place. Also allowed us to reconfigure some of the retail that we have planned for the southeast corner. That's about 2,400 square feet. And just to hit a couple of highlights, I think the real opportunities here, besides the market rate apartments, are that plaza space at the southeast corner. That's a city right of way that we've had a lot of good discussions with the city on how we can best use that space to make it both an amenity for the tenants, amenity for that retail space at the corner, and then the neighborhood at large. It's a bit challenging because of the utilities that are in there, but we have a really great landscape architect who's worked around those utility corridors to put greenery, a little bit of lawn, a fountain, and some other interesting concrete treatments as well. So the only other aspect we'd say is we definitely worked very closely with both the city and the streetcar authority to talk about how trash would be handled. I think we've hit on a pretty good solution. Trash is generally going to be in the early mornings before a streetcar is running, but it is completely tackled out of the right of way, and so we're not blocking any streetcar traffic. And then finally, as Larissa mentioned, we did move. We had two entrances into the parking garage before. Now there's only one entrance, and it's on the Walnut side, so kind of takes some of that car traffic off the streetcar line. We love the streetcar; it's right there, but it's definitely going to make it for an interesting construction project as well. The last aspect I would just mention is, we do have to go through the aviation process, so we eagerly await any kind of outcome that's a more holistic solution across the neighborhood for those FAA challenges. Though we don't anticipate those being an issue, I think we just got to go through that process. I don't think we're even as tall as the building next door, closer to the downtown airport.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 6, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. I think there's nobody, Joe.
There's no one on Zoom that's raised their hand, and there's no one in the chamber.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add? Okay. Appreciate that.
Sorry, could you explain the trash one more time? I thought
Trash?
I had it, but yeah.
So trash, because of where the retail is, it really needs to be located on the lowest level of the site, and it's a hilly site, so it goes up quite a bit from Grand to Walnut. So trash needs to be serviced on the Grand Boulevard side. And to do that, we've created this lane where the trash truck could pull out. So it's coming from the north to the south. Yep, thank you. So, the trash truck always has to come that one direction because there is going to be a streetcar stop or a streetcar station in the middle of the street there. So the trash truck will come south, pull over into the lane. They'll wheel the dumpsters from the building across the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
Dump
so
it, and then move on.
The enclosure then is
Inside the building.
right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's the part I was missing.
Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what this looked like before, but this seems so sensible, which is really nice to see. I do remember, roughly the conflicts that we were having in trying to navigate the constraints of the site. And this just seems, again, very intuitive, which is nice. So with that, I'll go ahead and make the motion. Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 6 with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 6 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes 4-0. We appreciate you bringing it in and I agree. This looks like a fantastic project and it'd be a great addition down there to the river market. So thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Yep. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, with that, let's go back to docket item number 4. Hopefully we've got the microphone fixed.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, fantastic. It's the old turn it off and on again trick. I will quickly share my screen here. All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. So before us, we have docket item number 4, case number CD-ROW 2022-00040. This is a vacation of the alley between East Truman Road and I-70, just east of Brooklyn Avenue. The zoning district is B4-5. As said before, the applicant is seeking approval of a vacation of an alley. So this is the location of the subject site. It's within the boundaries of the heart of the city area plan. More specifically, it's just south of I-70, right before I-70 turns south over on Truman Road. Here is a closer view of the vacation that is connecting East Truman Road to the on-ramp of I-70 there, and between these two north-south streets in that block. I believe the applicant intends to combine these two parcels. They own both parcels on each side and I think improve and expand the fuel station, but I will let the applicant speak to their plans. This is the survey showing the area to be vacated. It is a 15 by 123 area, and it comprises 1,800 square feet, roughly 1,845 square feet. So staff did review this in relation to the zoning and development code and found it to be in conformance. I do recommend approval subject to conditions. Those conditions are outlined here, having to do with utility easement for Evergy and the power source for the street lights if they are affected. With that, I'll conclude my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can you go back to the map where this is located or just show that again? Make sure I got it right.
1 second here. Is this what you're looking for? Or the next one?
Yeah, just the actual close up, where it's located. There you go. So what's that portion from the north side of the property up to the on-ramp? Is that?
So that's going to be a connection with the on-ramp. It's not KCMO property, so we cannot vacate it. They will just have to communicate with MoDOT about closing that entrance off.
Is that one of your conditions about working with MoDOT on that? Are they gonna abandon that piece, or is that, I guess we'll ask the applicant?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to ask the applicant. It's not conditioned currently. I did not hear back from MoDOT regarding that. So I did not include it.
Okay. Any other questions for the city staff from the commission?
Related to that on the, let's see, the survey. What does it mean when it says vacated by state of Missouri, book B-5292?
Yeah, so if you actually relate this, so this whole area was platted in, I think it was 1882 with the East Side Place subdivision. It used to go all the way north, and then when they plotted I-70 through this area, as a whole, they vacated everything they were going through. So they vacated the plat. So that's what it's speaking to. The whole plat was vacated when they put I-70 through there.
Yeah, you never see it, but there's also the same process for vacating right of way. There's a vacation of plat as well. You just almost never see that.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions for city staff? Okay, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant, if the applicant's available.
I am promoting Gerald Menifee. Go ahead, Mr. Menifee, you're unmuted.
Are you there? Mr. Menifee, available? Kind of a reminder why it's preferred to be in person. Hi, good morning. Nice to see you.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you though. Okay. No. So Joe, I think we need to go ahead and hold this case again and see if they can work out their issues with the microphones, and let's move on to docket item number 7, please.
All right, docket item 7 is case CPC 2023-00061. Request to approve the 49th and Montgall PIEA General Development Plan and declare the area blighted and unsanitary and in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation pursuant to the Missouri PIEA law on about 6 acres located at East 49th Street and Montgall Avenue, extending from Chestnut Avenue on the east to Prospect Avenue on the west. Olufu Agbaji is the staff planner.
Good morning.
Thanks, Joe. If you can promote, I think David McCoubry and Pat Sterrett.
We've just promoted them.
Yeah. Thank you. Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Olafor Agbaji, City Planning and Development staff. Docket item number 7 is a request for approval of the 49th and Montgall PIEA General Development Plan. On up. Is representing the developer. This next case is located in the Midtown, just off 71 and Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Pardon me.
Martin Luther-
Oh, we can't, your screen is showing the speakers for us online. It's not showing your case.
Okay, let me pick the correct screen. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Thanks, Matt. They're working now?
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, 61. Yes, now it is.
Right. Thanks, Lisa. Again, this site is located just south of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and 71 Highway. And this is a closer look at the site. Again, just to the north of the site is Brush Creek Greenway and Bruce R. Watkins Drive and Prospect. I am going to do a quick general overview of the area and hand it over to Dave McCubry and Pat Sterrett to give you the blight analysis and present their own plan. And then I'll wrap it up with staff's recommendation and review of that plan. I'm highlighting 1, 2, and 3 sites just so I can tell you what's been approved around this area recently and how this area is being redeveloped. Number 1 is just to the northwest corner of Prospect and Martin Luther King Boulevard. Number 2, 3, and 4, and I'll just show you a quick update on those. Number 1 is the Emmanuel Family and Child Development Center, which also has a Swope Health Kids Care component attached to it. This was recently approved and built in 2021, 2022. Number 2 is Express Mart Shell's gas station. This was redeveloped and revamped back in 2018. Number 4 is a dialysis center, which is just west of the gas station on Mongol. And that was approved and constructed back in 2018. And just off and east of the dialysis center, as you can see, is under construction is what's offices at Overlook. And this was approved back in 2020 and recently amended back in 2022. And this allowed for construction of about 130,000 square foot offices, 30,000 mixed use retail, and 155 multifamily units. And this was approved in 7 buildings, as you can see, in 4 phases. That's currently under construction. This also went through a PIEA. And the reason I'm showing you this is today's PIEA does not have an accompanying plan, but it's just to show you what's happening around the area. With that, this is the general boundary of the area, and I'll stop now so Mr. Sterrett can take over the presentation of blight and plan.
If I may, Chairman Crowell, good morning, and good morning to you and the commission. My name is David McCubry, and I'm the executive director of the PIEA. We are the applicant, and our address is 300 Wyandotte in Kansas City. As it relates to the property that will be defined, the upcoming qualification analysis and general development plan prepared by Pat Sterrett will focus on the PIEA statutory requirements in pursuit of creating a PIEA planning area. If successful, the area within the boundaries will be eligible for the PIEA's benefits. Representing the developer today is Mark Bryant. He will expound upon his project and answer questions. And if I may, I'd like to introduce our consultant, Pat Sterrett, who will present his findings from his analysis.
Thank you, David. I'd like to share my screen and bring up my presentation. My name is Pat Sterrett of Sterrett Urban LLC, 704 Cantor Street in Raymore. And as Mr. McCubry noted, a consultant to the PIEA, and I'll present a summary of the general development plan and the qualifications analysis for you. Here we go. Just a little bit of context. Part of the proposed planning area of 49th and Montgall is included within the Brush Creek Tax Increment Financing Plan. As Mr. Agbaji also noted, the offices at Overlook Planned Industrial Expansion Area General Development Plan is located to the north and to the east of the proposed plan. None of the properties within the proposed 49th and Montgall plan, however, have benefited from the TIF plan or from other PIA or other incentives from the city. As noted, the boundaries include Prospect and 71 Highway on the west, 50th Street on the south, Chestnut and Montgall on the east, and then 49th and Align. It's actually the southern property line of the convenience store that Mr. Agbaji showed you just a few minutes ago, formed the north boundary. It's within the Northtown Fort Creek neighborhood, about 6 acres total in fee simple property and 34 parcels. Of those 34 parcels, 13 are improved with single family homes, 2 of which are vacant and include 1 dangerous building. 7 of those homes are owner occupied, 4 are rented. The average age of those structures is about just over 100 years, and average size, according to county records, is just under 1,000 square feet. 7 single family homes within the area have been demolished since 2005. The other lots are residential vacant lots, comprising about 4.5 of the 6 acres within the plant area. So about 75% of the planning area is vacant. Planning requirements for the developer will be to satisfy the Swope Area Plan Development Form guidelines. The Swope Area Plan land use calls for mixed use community, residential medium high, and residential low. Swope Area Plan amendment may be required for land use change. Rezoning, of course, will be required to urban redevelopment. There is a 10-year timeframe within the plan for completion, and the anticipated PIEA assistance is tax abatement and possibly acquisition. The plan area is located within a continuously distressed census tract. Proposed redevelopment right now consists of the development of an assisted living facility and some villas. There could be as many as several hundred units total within the planning area. The statutory definition you see before you, and as has been reviewed with you previously, all of these conditions exist within the planning area, but will focus primarily on insanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of site improvements, and then economic liability as the effect factor. Insanitary or unsafe conditions throughout the area include overgrown vegetation, trash and debris, deteriorated sidewalks, and transient activity. You can see, due to the overgrown vegetation, there are several spots, primarily on the western edge of the planning area, that have had some transient activity, at least in the past. We didn't come across any transients during the inspection, but certainly evidence of such activity exists. Also, quite a bit of illegal dumping, especially on the vacant lots that exist. And along the street. This is Montgall on the west side of Montgall. And the neighbors have even gone so far as to communicate with anyone who's dumping on their fences to stop, but it certainly doesn't deter anyone from dumping trash within the neighborhood. Deteriorated sidewalks, as you see on the left, and then debris and trash, as you see on the right, covering up the sidewalks. Deterioration includes aging and deteriorating improvements. That's primarily with the deterioration of roofs, windows, the failure of finishes, and secondarily deterioration of pavement, which is primarily driveways. On the left is the dangerous building that's been boarded and has also been home to squatters in the past. A house there on the right, deterioration of the fascia, no gutters, no downspouts, also is missing some siding on the other side of the house. And you can see the deterioration of the driveway there as well. Deterioration of the roofs, as you can see in these 2 photos. There are 8 structures, 8 houses on Chestnut, which is what you're seeing here. Most in fair condition. But most of the improvements that are needed on most of the structures exceed what the county at least states is the value of the property. Accessory structures, ancillary structures are also deteriorating, as you see with the garage there on the left and sheds there on the right. Driveways, as I mentioned, and a garage there on the right. All told, of the 34 parcels, 33 exhibit insanitary or unsafe conditions. 22 exhibit deterioration of site improvements, which includes foundations from those homes that had been demolished here recently. Existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire or other causes was not found within the planning area. Parcels with at least one blighting factor, there are 33 of the 34. And then 20 of the parcels exhibit a predominance of blighting factors, or about 62% of the planning area. The economic liability is exhibited with reduced or negligible income. That's low assessed values. The median value of the homes per the county assessment department is $23,000, average value at $21,409. Generates low tax revenue. The entire planning area generates just over $5,900 per year. However, that's what's been collected. There are 8 land bank properties of which the plan proponent has had a proposal accepted by the land bank to acquire those properties. I'm not sure what the status of closing on those is. There are also 10 tax delinquencies. So all told, for the past several years, the city and other taxing jurisdictions have not been receiving income from over half of the properties within the planning area. The impaired economic value is brought about, of course, by the physical deterioration of the structures, the insanitary, unsafe conditions that are existent throughout the entire planning area, and the excessive vacant lots. All told, in its present condition and use, we believe the PIA planning area of 49th and Montgall is a blighted area according to the definition provided in Missouri's industrial development statutes. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Yeah, or you want to add, Mr. Bryant, to the presentation there? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Mark Bryant, 4510 Bellevue, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm here today in the capacity of being the executive director of Onyx Development Corporation, a Missouri nonprofit corporation organized to develop blighted properties east of Truce in Kansas City, Missouri. The corporation currently owns 5 lots in this area. It has been approved for the purchase of 7 additional lots by Land Bank of Kansas City, and our plan is to construct 136 units of assisted living facility at this location. Those properties will be constructed on what is now numbered 4900, 4904, and 4912 Montgall. Also 2610 and 2616 East 49th Street.
Okay. Some of the houses that are there now as part of this plan, are there people living in there and currently?
I believe there are 7 properties that are occupied. They are not within the area that we plan to construct the 136 assisted living units.
Okay. I was wondering about displacement of those folks, if there's a plan for that, if they were to be displaced.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear you.
I was curious if there's a plan, if those folks were going to be displaced as part of this project, what that plan is to relocate them.
We're not planning on acquiring any of those occupied properties that are along Chestnut right now. The only properties that we're interested in acquiring are 2610, 2616 East 49th Street, and 4825 Prospect. One of those units is occupied, and we have offered to relocate those property owners to some other property that we own in that area and to reconstruct their house at that location.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
Oh, never mind.
Sure.
Oh, so are we gonna see this is just the tax incentive plan. We'll see actual development plan eventually, correct?
Yes, you will see a request for rezoning to UR, which will
Okay.
be accompanied by a development plan, also may possibly also an area plan amendment.
Okay.
All right, this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody,
I have to wrap up, so.
Oh,
I'll give you-
sorry.
I'll give you staff's recommendation.
thought you do
So-
that at the end. That's right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted that presentation, then I'll do. So this is the planning area, and the area he just described kind of shows you that they will be tackling this area that's west of Mongol and 49th Street, which is not affected, but the entire area eventually will come all the way down, or that's the boundary. But this area, this is the single family that's currently existing, and that's the one that will be relocated. So phase one of this PIA plan would just tackle the west side of Mongol. He already gave you all the data on this of the project. Staff's recommendation of this is that they revise the plan and have this language, these three recommendations in the plan that shows that whenever, which I think is already done, whenever phase one comes, it has to come back for rezoning to UR. So that will make sure it's also consistent, and possibly an area plan amendment to go with that. And I had some minor corrections within the plan that says they should change where the language says focus Kansas City plan to Spirit Playbook, and just simple corrections within the plan. With that, staff's recommendation is for approval subject to these three conditions. That ends my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Okay, with that, any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. So these four conditions they need to be modified on the current?
It's two conditions and one correction of that has to be made to the plan. So those are four corrections within the plan itself, the document.
Okay. All right, so at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 7, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak, and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so go ahead and close public testimony then. Any last thoughts or comments on this item? Okay,
No, sir.
all right, so with that, speak amongst the commission. I'll take a motion if we're ready for that.
I move to finding a blight. And then also move to approve docket item 7 with conditions with the 3 conditions stated by staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's in the report.
Okay.
One of them is just missing a
Okay.
bullet point. But
Yep.
yeah. Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for the finding of blight as well as the approval of docket item number 7 with modifications to the 3 conditions as presented in the presentation by city staff. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0. Thank you and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to attempt going back to docket item number 4 again.
I'm told that the applicant is on the call, has called in, so
Okay.
hopefully. that
All right,
takes
so let's
care of
go back to docket item number 4. I think we're ready for the actual applicant's comments at this point in time.
it. Go ahead, Mr. Menifee. If your phone line is muted, you need to unmute your phone line. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, the project we're looking at is basically bisected by the alleyway we're asking for to be vacated. We are presently, there is a convenience store on the west side of the tract, and they're wanting to expand into the east side of the tracks into the existing, across the existing alleyway. And we're wanting to add some additional fuel pumps over there, which would necessitate going across a public right of way with any feeds of the gas lines or electrical lines or whichever. So we're essentially asking that the alleyway be vacated. There is no need for the alleyway at this point in time, as the property to the north has essentially been taken over by the highway department as part of their development of a Highway 70 corridor. And we're trying to remove that last little vestige of alleyway in order to make the track more developable.
Okay. So there's that little piece of roadway that's between the site and it goes north towards MoDOT right away. Is that going to be abandoned or something happen with it?
We're asking it be abandoned,
Just to
vacated.
remove the access. Is
Yes.
that still going to maintain access up to, was it 14th?
It's an on-ramp for the highway.
Yeah.
Mr. Menifee, do you know, is that going to be abandoned?
Excuse me, what was that again?
There's a driveway that leads from the on-ramp down to Truman Road that we understand is on MoDOT property. And I believe the commission's question is that portion of the driveway that's on MoDOT property going to be abandoned?
I don't think we have any plans, or the state has any plans, and it's up to them what they want to do with it. It's basically unusable.
Jared, is there a condition recommending that we retain an easement?
There is not currently. There was nothing came back from MoDOT. We can certainly add a condition if you would like.
I mean, on our portion of the right of way. If we vacate it, would the public have the right to access it if they're leaving the on-ramp?
There's no access easement currently in the report. There is a utility easement for Evergy.
Commissioners, I think if we want to take action today, we would want to retain an easement over our portion of the vacated right of way so the public could continue to use the driveway from MoDOT's.
Yeah, they're planning to build a building over the top of that vacated area, or is it?
I don't know.
Well, we'd be building,
Is it just
we would,
excess?
What's the purpose of
We
the
would be-
vacation, Mr. Menifee?
excuse me,
Is your client planning to build over the vacated alley?
yes, they are. They're expanding the existing convenience store off to the east. We're building over additional convenience store area over this driveway, as well as locating additional gas pumps off to the east, which will require crossing the existing alleyway with the necessary services they need to provide to the gas pumps.
What's the commission think of that piece? Do they coordinate something with MoDOT to maintain that access, or?
I think
Um,
I think that I'd like to approve it contingent upon MoDOT being okay with it. I don't think the connection is valuable, but yeah, I don't think we want to approve building over it until MoDOT's also approved vacating their portion. Jared, do you have a sense of how that would best be added as a condition?
We could request some form of affidavit or something similar to like our utility agreement we require on vacations, but from MoDOT, so that the applicant goes and speaks with MoDOT and receives signature from someone on their team.
I think that's fair. Okay. Anything else, applicant, on this one?
No, that's as simple as I can make it.
Okay. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Any last thoughts on this applicant?
We just feel that it's a virtually an unusable alleyway for the most part. I mean, it's one block long through existing development and there's no future development on the right of way of the highway department, as far as we can tell, that would ever occur there. And we therefore think that the commission ought to go ahead and approve the vacation and allow us to construct additional building space on the site.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
We'll go ahead and, yes.
I'm sorry. I was just going to add for the condition, I just like it to be on record that it's a good idea to include that condition be trigger upon prior to ordinance request. Just so that everyone's aware, so that we don't have it going before council before that's been worked out. We'll request the ordinance once they provide that form back to us.
Okay, sounds good. All right, with that, we'll close testimony then and speak amongst the commission, or I'll take a motion, please.
I just want to know, excuse me, I just want to know, are there any sewer lines, water mains or anything underneath the alley?
The applicant did provide utility comment from KCMO Water and Public Works, and there was no sewer or water going through this alleyway.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve, excuse me, Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 4 with the 2 conditions listed and adding a 3rd condition requiring the applicant to attain an affidavit from MoDOT allowing the building to go forward and the vacation to go forward prior to the ordinance request.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 7 with the 2 conditions and the addition of the 3rd condition as stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes in 4-0. All right, so where are we at now? Docket item number 8.
Right. Docket item 8 is case CPC 2023-00078. Request to approve the East Kansas City Urban Renewal Plan and declare the area blighted and unsanitary and in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation as required by the LCRA law on about 25,000 acres, generally located by Cliff Drive on the north, I-435 on the east, Bannister Road on the south, and the west property lines of parcels along the west side of Troost Avenue on the west. Larissa Chambi is the staff planner.
Good morning. All right, whoops. I'll actually share my screen this time. So as was mentioned, this is an urban renewal plan. Here is the area for the plan in relation to the Kansas City area. And then just kind of a zoomed in look for, just so you can get a better idea of how much acreage is included. There are multiple area plans that are within this area, this plan area. And I will pass it on to the applicant, Mr. Long. And I'll actually grab his presentation, so I'll let him get started.
Good morning. My name is Bob Long. I'm the Senior Development Services Specialist at the Economic Development Corporation, here today on behalf of the Land Clearance Redevelopment Authority. The proposed East Kansas City Urban Renewal Plan is an unusual animal. We're talking about almost 26,000 acres and nearly 64,000 parcels in the city of Kansas City. It's huge. The purpose of this plan is to help create opportunities for single family and small scale development in portions of what actually is in 4 city council districts. The only 2 council districts that aren't included in at least a part of this are the 1st and 2nd districts. The plan does overlay a number of existing urban renewal areas, as well as PIA plan areas, 353 areas, and TIF plan areas, all of which have existing blight findings. The plan goal is to also help support affordable housing developments by providing an easier approval process for tax abatement. And it will also give neighborhoods more of a say in the types of other multifamily and commercial projects that might occur within their neighborhoods. So single-family homes and small-scale projects will be eligible for administrative approval through the LCRA's workable program. That means that the applicants will be able to go through a very simplified process of applying during construction and then apply for their tax abatement and receive administrative approval through the LCRA's executive director. Affordable housing projects were already eligible for a simplified application project, but that had traditionally been restricted to low-income housing tax credit projects. We've broadened that definition to allow any project that receives low-income housing tax credits or housing trust fund monies from the city or Central City Economic Development sales tax funding from the city, or has any sort of a HUD financing that places a rental restriction on the project. They will also now be eligible for that simplified process. And then multifamily projects and commercial projects will also be able to apply for this if they can bring a letter of support from the neighborhood association and at least one of the city council members. And if they're able to do that, the LCRA is willing to waive the financial analysis requirement. These are all building on existing LCRA policies. Now, of course, when we create an urban renewal area, we have to do a blight study. This is a huge area. There are existing blight designations for a number of existing urban renewal areas, PIAs, 353s, and TIF plans within this boundary. There are high levels of multiple types of economically blighting distress criteria within the plan area. There's physical deterioration of properties throughout the area. When the study was prepared, there were at least 1,000 open 311 calls within the plan area. Violent crime levels are more than 3 times higher than the citywide levels and 11 times higher than national levels. And vacancy rates exceed 20% within the plan area. There's also a large number of tax delinquencies, and I would venture to guess that a significant majority of the land bank parcels are also within these boundaries. So we are basically asking you to approve a finding of blight and recommend approval of the proposed urban renewal plan. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So for LCRA, it's up to 10 years, correct?
That is
100%.
correct.
So we're not a tax abatement entity, but by finding the blight, we're essentially endorsing a 10-year period and not any higher for this.
Yes, the
Okay.
LCRA abates the increased taxes.
Mhm.
So the base taxes on any abated property, base taxes would remain in place and would continue to flow to the taxing jurisdictions.
Okay.
They just wouldn't receive any increase.
Okay, thanks.
Based upon the explanation you gave, I feel like I have a good sense of, on the low end of the spectrum, incremental development with an individual non-professional developer or homeowner. Could you give an example of what the opposite end of that spectrum might look like?
Okay, we a majority of the tax abatements that are approved by the LCRA are actually for single family homes. They're owner occupied homes. But we also, in this plan, will allow investor owners with properties of up to 8 units to be eligible for that same simplified application process. We think that that will lead to, we hope, the development of new 4plexes, 6plexes, or 8plexes, which are that kind of that missing middle type of housing that we don't see enough of in many of our neighborhoods.
And sorry if this is only pertaining to residential development then?
Commercial projects would be able to apply, but they have to be able to bring letters of support. If they can't get a letter of support from the neighborhood association or the council representative, they would not be able to apply through this program.
So this is the kind of administrative program. They could still get the abatement, but they would have to go through the larger process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of like the larger multifamily projects probably would opt to seek PIA tax abatement rather than LCRA tax abatement, because the PIA tax abatement can be up to 25 years under the right circumstances.
What is the opportunity for rehabilitation? I know we talk about 6plexes, but like there's a lot of dilapidated 6plexes as well. So that they would be eligible as well?
They would be. Any existing residential structure would basically be eligible for the tax abatement.
Okay.
And in layman's terms, can you explain why it's necessary for the eminent domain clause? Like in which situations where as part of the redevelop or part of this approval process, you need that in there?
The LCRA technically always has the power of eminent domain, but for the purposes of this plan has chosen not to use it within this plan. So, I mean, the eminent domain clause in this plan basically says that we won't use it to assist projects within this plan.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Big project.
Yeah, it is a large chunk of the city. But it's a chunk of the city that desperately needs a lot of attention. And if, 10 years of tax abatement can help bring back a lot of these neighborhoods by encouraging new homeowners or new rental properties that to be built on, on smaller scale rental properties. We think that that's going to be long-term. That'll be really good for the city and all of the taxing jurisdictions.
So last question. Is there like a deed restriction on these properties when they get the abatement for the 10-year period?
Deed restriction?
Like that if you can't flip a property, right?
No, there is not. There is not. We have actually found that a lot of the homeowners tend to hang on to their property.
Yeah, because you get the abatement, so
You want to get the maximum value out of your abatement.
Okay.
I would suspect that some of the newer homes that might be built might be flipped after 3, 4, or 5 years, because then the remaining tax abatement would help a new buyer be able to afford more of a house than they might have been able to afford if they had to pay full taxes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm guessing if it becomes an issue, you will hear about it and they can amend the plan, right?
The way this plan has really only got a 15-year term.
Yeah.
And there's a 5-year look back that's built into this plan so that at the end of 5 years, we can look and say, this has had a much better impact than we expected, or it's not working.
Yep.
And we can move to shut the program down.
Okay, cool. I'm just cognizant of what some neighborhoods probably would experience.
Well, and see, this is one of the reasons we went with this large overlay, is because there is such a patchwork of existing urban renewal areas, and you'd have one neighborhood that was in what I would call a donut hole.
Yeah.
It would literally be surrounded on 3 sides by existing urban renewal areas, but wasn't in an urban renewal area. And that generally came down to a lack of resources on the part of the neighborhood association.
It's like the Meservey Public School is in a donut hole of incentives.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's one of the reasons why it's the last one
or-
to
yeah,
kind of get.
I'm thinking like the Squire Park neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's surrounded by urban renewal areas, but it's not in one.
Yep.
How much public involvement has occurred on this, and how many times have you trotted it out to present it to different
Well,
entities?
our executive director, Dan Moy, has been out and talked to a number of neighborhood leaders. I have been out talking to neighborhood associations. We've been trying to promote it every opportunity that we can, and we will continue to do so after, assuming city council approves it. That'll give us a more reason to roll out an awareness campaign.
Any other questions from the commission?
Sorry, one more. I apologize. I didn't have as much time to digest this before coming, because there is a lot here, and based upon the people involved, I trust that this is going to be great, and it sounds great from what I've heard. Can you explain on the executive summary, LCRA assistance anticipated by the proponent includes first bullet point, tax abatement, the second bullet point, sale/leaseback bond transactions. I was trying to find more information on that part.
Okay, the LCRA can do a short or either short-term or long-term sale leaseback arrangement that basically the LCRA would take title to the property, which of course then makes the property tax exempt. We usually require the developer who's going to then lease the property back to make a pilot payment equal to the previous taxes. But then during the term of that, especially during a short-term sale leaseback, it'd just be during the construction period. Well, all the construction materials would technically be being purchased by the LCRA and are therefore tax exempt, and that helps reduce project costs. And then at the end of the short-term sale leaseback, the developer's permanent financing comes in, takes out the LCRA, and then we issue a 10-year tax abatement certificate. If the project actually needs a longer term tax abatement, or the LCRA can accommodate that by doing more than a 10-year ownership period to basically extend a tax abatement for a longer period. That would typically happen with like affordable housing projects.
And so the reason that it's listed as a bullet point but not explained further is because it's going along the standard process already. There are no changes to it for this administrative approval.
A sale leaseback is not a quick or inexpensive process, and we don't use it very frequently. But it is a tool that is available for specific types of projects.
Got it. Thank you.
A couple more things. Just looking through the resolution and the costs for relocation of people. It's 10-year, is that right? 10-year program? Or any of the numbers adjusted over time to kind of keep up with inflation? Can they be?
You know, that's a good question. We generally, it's the LCRA's relocation policy generally kind of mirrors the federal relocation policy. I'm not sure if we update numbers.
Yeah, $1,000 fixed moving expense, an additional 400 if handicapped. 8 years from now, that's gonna be a lot, $1,000 won't go near as far.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys can look into?
We can check on that with the LCRA's legal counsel to see if we need to update the policy. And then, of course, if any of the policies do get updated at a later time, we would apply the then current policy as opposed to the policy that might be included in the plan.
Okay. And in the front where you list the City Planning Commission people?
I got it right.
My name is spelled wrong.
We'll take care of that. I know we have a couple of corrections.
There's no L in the middle of my name.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the commission to the applicant? So let's open this up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 8, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, I'm actually fairly surprised. I think that you'd see a lot of testimony either in favor or mainly in favor of, but so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. So maybe that's just the trust in Bob, your presentation and getting it done.
That'd be nice.
Got to be part of it.
Not that I'm going to be here forever, but
I'll just say, I think
I get so frustrated when we have to listen to those blight findings. And I know it's the law, but like some of these are severely distressed census tracts, and I don't need to know that there's a can of Budweiser on the side of the sidewalk. I want, like, I think this is a great kind of intermediate step of, we know there are issues in these neighborhoods. 10 years is an adequate amount of time to kind of jumpstart things. And there are some protections for within that program. And I think kind of eliminating or minimizing the need for these kind of almost ridiculous blight studies at times, I think is really going to be critical for just kind of making it easier for normal people, but also even bigger developers to just know that they at least have 10 years to support their projects. So I'm in favor of it, because I was thinking about it as we were going through the last one. Like, why can't we just have like a more blanket approach, at least for a little bit, and then we can reassess in the future.
Well, and the cost of blight studies, if we had had to do a traditional blight study for this,
$200,000.
it would have been, I'm guessing we would have spent $500,000 on a blight study, and it would have taken probably a year or more to do. We don't have that money, and we don't have that time.
Okay, anything else?
Oh,
Motion, please.
Yep, exciting stuff. Again, seems like a good group of people who put it together. Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 8 without conditions.
With conditions.
With conditions.
Second.
Okay, and I'm just gonna add, just checking in a couple things on the adjustments to payments for displacement, as well as a couple.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to
corrections in
restate that.
spelling.
Yeah.
Why don't you say to ensure that all figures are adjusted for inflation? I think there's like some construction data. and
They
stuff.
may or may not be able to do that. They gotta follow the.
Oh yeah, follow up, but broadly speaking, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 8 with conditions, the one that's stated in the docket, and then adding a condition asking the applicant to look into adjusting figures for inflation with particular attention to the relocation figures.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 8 with conditions, and adding a third condition, or adding an additional
Second.
condition on there as stated. With that, Lisa, can you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passes. So
Thank
good
you.
luck, and thank you for bringing this in. It's a huge endeavor, and I'm sure it'll kickstart a lot of different things in there. And
It'll be interesting to see how many applications we get quickly.
yeah. All right, thank you. With that, I think we're on to docket item number 15 here. This is probably one of those good news type of dockets, I'm assuming.
All right, docket item 15 is case number MISC 2023-00003. Considering a request to issue a certificate of completion for the Union Hill 353 area, generally bound by Main Street on the west, 31st Street on the south, Gillum on the east, and 27th Street on the north. I'll give a brief presentation, and then I'll turn it over to the applicant to provide some more details to the commission. This request is based upon a chapter of the city code that has been repealed. So that is why you've not seen one before. Several years ago, that chapter was repealed, and that chapter required that the 353 tax abatement programs be approved through the city. And then also, after approval and completion of the plan that's been approved, a certificate of completion be issued. And the ordinance that was repealed indicated that a certificate of completion can be issued whenever the components shown on the development plan have been determined to be completed by the commission and council. So the applicant in this case, while they're not required to provide this from the city's perspective, or not required to obtain the certificate from our perspective, they have elected, or they desire to go ahead and receive the certificate of completion. And staff is not making a recommendation. In the past, my understanding is staff would make a recommendation after they inspected the plan area to provide verification. However, I was not made aware of that until last Thursday. So there was not time to do that between Thursday and today, of course. So there's no recommendation from staff at this time, but I do believe Ms. Jensen has photographs and other information she can provide that may make that case.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. Joe, could you help Bob pull up his PowerPoint? So I just have a few opening remarks. My name is Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm, with offices located at 4510 Bellevue. Here today with Bob Fry, who is to my left on behalf of Phoenix Redevelopment Corporation. This really is a good news item. It's a great item to have in front of you on an election day. And it is also a good day for you to see the fruits of your labor as a result of approval of a 353 program that came about some almost 40 years ago now. I'm sure many of you remember the Union Hill area pre this program. It was an area that was deteriorating. There was blight. There were endless problems. So Bob is going to go through that. We request at the end that you recommend approval of the issuance of a certificate of full compliance for the Union Hill 353.
Bob Fry, 2929 McGee Traffic Way, Kansas City, Missouri, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to try to do 40 years in 16 minutes. So if you have any questions along the way, I'm not rushing. So we started, when this started, this is a photograph of Main Street, just south of 31st Street, where the Children's Center campus is today, Ability Casey's campus. It was a little bit rough at the time. And so generally, where Union Hill is it's really located at kind of the midpoint between the river and UMKC on Main Street, just to the east of Main Street, and which also makes it the center point of the new streetcar extension. Our immediate neighbors are to the north is Union Cemetery and Crown Center. Crown Center is, just to give you a sense of the scale, is slightly smaller from an acreage point of view than Union Hill is, but they're similar in size. We're just east of the new Federal Reserve and Liberty Memorial. Our other important neighbors are Midtown Marketplace to the south and Hospital Hill to the north. We are generally bounded by Main Street on the west, 31st Street on the south, Gillum Road on the east, and 29th Street and the Union Cemetery on the north. Kind of two of the anchors that, like I've mentioned, Children's Center campus on the southwest corner at Main and 31st Street. And you probably know about Martini Corner at 31st and Gillum. Some highlights of the plan: it's 16 city blocks, 880 housing units, and about 450,000 square feet of commercial. Union Hill was a booming area up until the 1920s, but just like really Kansas City downtown as a whole, between 1930s and the 70s, it became very blighted. The housing was primarily vacant, vandalized. Businesses were adult bookstores, pawn shops, and CD bars. The economic, kind of a summary of economic impact, the assessed property taxes in 1982 were just a little bit below 1,300,000. As of the end of 2020, $34,500,000 with an average increase of 53% per year in assessed assessed property values. The plan was initiated in 1982 by a very successful suburban developer named Jim Young. That's when the original plan was approved. My background with Union Hills started actually in '83. It was my college thesis, coincidentally. And in that same year, I received my Bachelor of Architecture degree from Kansas State University. After graduation, I began with my brother building some homes on lots within the area that the then developer had sold to us. In 1987, however, the original developer ran into financial troubles and had several properties actually foreclosed. The plan, there was kind of a giant I think, in the city planning, because this was new. Nobody was doing this at the time. So there wasn't a history of, in fact, most people thought we were crazy for wanting to do market rate housing in Kansas City at the time. The lenders thought we were crazy. Everybody thought we were crazy. And so when the first effort at this failed, within the planning community, the civic community, there was a kind of a ripple effect of and so working with a variety of people who are listed below, many of whom you will all know, is we put together a team which included Phil Kirk and Steve Taylor at DST, John Laney, former city development director, and Mel Lavery with the Hall Family Foundation, Jim Bowers, former assistant city attorney, typo, Steve Block with Block and Company, and myself. That team helped us put together a very thoughtful development plan. And then once their assistance was over, I became the sole shareholder in 1997. Some of the components, the 353 plan was already in place, but some of the components that when we started in '88 were to create a neighborhood identity. We created the Union Hill Special Business District in 1990, which maintains the pedestrian lighting system, which helps create edges and a sense of community. In 1997, we created a TIF plan that really has two primary purposes, which was to remove blight, primarily spot zoned apartments within the middle of the neighborhood, and to do infrastructure improvements. None of the funds from the TIF plan were used for private purposes. In 2003, there was the Fifth Amendment, which also included the implementation of a URD zoning for the area. And then earlier this year, the council approved an extension of time. Phoenix, this is a very unique partnership. Phoenix with the Union Hill Neighborhood Association and the city created a development plan, not unlike the one we just heard, that would encourage small businesses and individuals to invest in the redevelopment, revitalization of the area. Phoenix has not and does not own any property. We are probably much closer to a Main Street corridor or some other entity like that, but rather, along with the neighborhood association, we have administered the plan. Union Hill has over 200 property owners and 1,500 residents. Who were the redevelopers? The vast majority were individuals either fixing up houses or building houses. 34% were small businesses and 2% were nonprofits. The developments within the area, because it is a mixed-use development, will really fall into 6 categories or types of development. The first is single-family or owner-occupied homes, new. Second is restored owner-occupied homes. Third is renovated commercial properties. Fourth is new commercial properties, renovated multifamily, and as you might suspect, new multifamily projects. The first is new owner-occupied homes. So back in 82, this is what Union Hill looked like. It was, it's funny, not unlike some of the photos we just saw, actually, overgrown, abandoned, we debated, do we say vacant lots? Well, they weren't, they were abandoned lots. Just like buildings can be abandoned, so can lots. And so this picture is at 30th and Grand Avenue. And today, 30th and Grand Avenue would be right there in that corner. Essentially hundreds of single family, primarily owner occupied homes make up the neighborhood. The other place that the new construction infill housing occurred where we had several large primarily multifamily projects that were high crime, out of character. Most of them had resulted from tearing down existing single family stock in the 60s and the 70s. And so this was DeGroff. And if you can see right there, there's a house. So we then came through and did infill. That's that house back there. That literally is the same lot. And what we, one of them, so of the total, there's 128 new houses, which represents 54% of the Union Hill properties. And we tried to always be respectful design wise with the infill. There's several, Grand Avenue is very different than DeGroff, is very different than Oak. And the infill, we tried to be very sympathetic to that existing housing stock. So with our goal of this doesn't look like a project, it looks like a neighborhood. Restored owner occupied homes. 1982, some great 1,800 homes that had fallen into, again, abandonment and neglect. And today, I think Grand Avenue is one of the prettiest streets in the city, and the investment of time and blood, sweat, and tears of the individuals who have restored these homes and maintained them today is truly impressive. So there are 74 restored homes, 31% of the Union Hill properties. And again, they kind of served as our touchstone from a design point of view for the rest of the all the new development. The renovated commercial buildings. Okay, so even though you'll all deny you've been to Martini Corner, you probably have been. And so this is Martini Corner in 1987. This building just recently got redone into Noka, which is a Japanese upscale restaurant that the folks at the Russell and Taylor have just opened. But Cliffs, Brick, Soul is upgrading right now to the Barrio concept. And it is a great place that provides services and makes living in Union Hill a better place because there's things to walk to. There's a total of 17 commercial properties that were restored, 7% of the total number of properties, including 4 restaurants, a veterinary hospital, a daycare center, and 9 other service businesses. New commercial. This is 30th and Main Street in 1987. It was partially vacant, partially dilapidating. And today it's the Fairfield Inn by Marriott, and has served as cleaned up an entire city block face for Union Hill. There are 7 new commercial properties, 3% of the total, but they've had a huge impact. Ability KC is and the Children's Center campus is so important at 31st and Main. That original slide of the adult bookstores and pawn shops, I can't think of a site that changed more from that use to providing services to children in the inner city. Restaurants and other service businesses. Renovated multifamily properties. This one varied dramatically from sixplexes being restored. This one was one that kind of worried us. This was a Residence Inn hotel that had lost its Marriott flag. And there was a lot of concern in the neighborhood of, well, what would happen with that big of an area and that prominent of a location. So it was acquired and converted to 96 renovated apartment units, an extensive renovation, millions of dollars, and is now kind of the front door to Union Hill off of Main. And as the streetcar comes through, will be an important frontage for that. Renovated multifamily, there's been 9 properties, which is 4%, with a total of 158 units. And then finally, new multifamily. The new multifamily sites varied kind of dramatically from really blighted apartments. This one, the demolition crews didn't want to go in it because it was so bad, which they kind of have a low standard. This was a car salvage lot on 30th and Gillum. So that's Gillum Road. We're looking east. And so that's what Gillum looked like. Oak Street was a series of industrial buildings that were mostly vacant because they'd become obsolete because of their small size. The Greenleaf's Cadillac building on the corner, this is Caddy Corner from the filling station coffee shop, is now 29 condominium units. And there, as you can see, there's a lot of vacant ground and boarded up buildings and essentially just no activity on the street. That project was a very large one. That's Oak. We're looking west. That is Oak Street, Union Cemetery. That's 30th Street at the top of the hill. You can kind of see the KCMO tower right there. And then after construction, that's kind of the same shot. Oak is between those two sets of buildings. A lot of the sites, the Union Hill is an important word. It's hilly. This particular site was 85 feet of fall in one city block. So we had to be really creative about how to handle grades, parking, ADA requirements. And so the streetscape today on Gillum is made up of the founders, which that one was Lux, which is this building, and several others, Lofts, which are these two buildings, and the Greenleaf's Cadillac condominium building. The storage, car storage lot was on this site. So that's where that was before. There's 4 new multifamily projects in the area, 2% of the total number of projects, but accounting for 520 of the units. And so in summary, there were 74 restored single-family homes, 128 new single-family homes, 17 renovated commercial properties, 5 new commercial properties, 9 renovated multifamily, and 4 new multifamily. And then I do want to kind of do a little shout out of gratefulness. The plan is super unique in that we didn't build anything. The Phoenix Redevelopment Corporation didn't. And well, what it took was hundreds of people in the Union Hill, that are Union Hill residents, city officials, coworkers, colleagues, contractors, lenders, investors, that have all worked together to create, for 40 years, to create an incredible neighborhood. One of the things we did provide was a copy of the letter of support from the Union Hill neighborhood, our partner, for this action today. And I also wanted to just say thanks to our mentor and friends, Phil Kirk and Steve Block. Steve's in the middle, and for all of the help and guidance they gave us in those early years.
And I think, flip back to that slide.
Oh, right.
So I believe, he correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh,
This
yeah.
was Jim, right?
That's Jim Bowers.
With hair.
With hair.
With red hair.
You know, Jim. And I was 12. I had a mustache at a young age.
What's it say under? I am not.
Okay.
I am not Jim Young.
And so that was our predecessor.
Okay.
And when we were doing our dog and pony shows to try to see if we could take it over, at the end, he was not real popular. And we kept getting these things, people yelling at us for what he did. And so we literally started wearing these T-shirts into meetings. This was actually in the Hallmark headquarters because they had kind of gotten burned by it also. So we do have, we have ties onto there because we were going into the big guys' offices. And so that is a 1986 probably picture. So
I believe his presentation has really shown you what good economic development can do with good use of the economic incentives that were available. So it has turned this community around. And with that, we would request that you recommend approval of the issuance of a certificate of full compliance.
Just writing down those words. Okay, thank you very much. And congratulations on all the work you've done. It's certainly transformed that whole southeast corner of downtown.
thank you.
And great job. So I do have one question. What's next?
Everybody keeps asking that question, by the way. I'm gonna take a little time off.
I'd imagine so, and I don't blame you, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
A lot of work has been done in this, and probably at the beginning, it was totally unexpected as what your role is going to be, but talk about dive right in.
We do stick with things.
Yes. Any questions from the commission to the applicant regarding this or anything? Is this something we also need to go to public comment on, I guess? And as well, since we're all here. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 15, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Thoughts from anybody? I mean,
Oh, it's been tremendous. Kind of, I wasn't around obviously when it first started, but enjoying the amenities, and I got to go to San Francisco and they had done Mission Bay, which was a whole master plan development, and they had their own issues with massive steel piles to support the structures. And so it was cool to meet the guy that did that, and they have 2 parcels left. And so he was very proud of his project, and I can see that you're extremely proud of your project as well in a similar, even more diverse situation than they had. So I'm excited that recommend approval for this.
All right, yeah, congratulations. It's an amazing neighborhood. Chair Kraut, I move to approve docket item number 15, recommending the issuance of a certificate of full completion.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item 15 and the issuance of a certificate of full, is it compliance or completion?
Compliance in the old code.
Compliance. Yes. All right. You okay to amend your motion on that?
Yes, as stated.
And
Thank you.
same with the second? Baker?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Looks like the motion passes. We, again, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you all.
Yep. Okay. I think that concludes the items on our docket, other than we're supposed to elect a new vice chair, and I think we'll wait on that if we can to when we have a full quorum. But I do like this 4-person thing. It goes a hell of a lot quicker than all the other meetings. So there's nothing else to bring before the commission. Recommend that we adjourn.
Item number 16.
Item 16. I only have 15. What's 16?
Okay.
Adjourn?
Adjourned.